Do you ever feel like you start strong but fade before you reach your goals? You know what you need to do, yet something inside holds you back. That's not laziness, it's a lack of trained willpower. Imagine if you could make the right choice every time, even when you feel tired, distracted, or uncertain. Imagine finishing what you start without needing motivation to push you forward. That's what extreme willpower really is. The ability to take control of your mind and your actions every single day. In this video, you'll discover how to face discomfort without running away, stay disciplined when motivation disappears, and turn small, consistent actions into habits that feel normal. You'll learn practical ways to rebuild trust with yourself, strengthen focus, and act immediately without arguing with your mind. By the end, you'll see that willpower isn't just something you wish for, it's something you can build, strengthen, and rely on in real life, starting today. Chapter 1. Choose effort when comfort feels easier today. Comfort is always close. It waits quietly when the alarm goes off, when the work is unfinished, and when the body aches from the day. Comfort whispers that it is okay to delay, to rest, to postpone. It promises relief and makes effort feel heavy, unnecessary, and exhausting. Choosing effort over comfort is not dramatic. It is not about grand gestures. It is about small, deliberate choices made consistently when no one is watching and when the easiest path would be to give in. That is where extreme willpower is built. Not in moments of glory or public recognition, but in private moments where action feels inconvenient, difficult, or unnecessary. Effort feels uncomfortable because it is real. The body resists it, the mind complains, and the heart longs for ease. Comfort feels easy, safe, and familiar. That is why most people surrender to it. Choosing effort in those moments trains the mind to follow intention rather than impulse. It strengthens the ability to act when motivation is low, fatigue is high, or distractions surround you. Willpower is not a gift. It is a skill developed in moments when you act against the natural pull toward comfort. Each time you choose effort when comfort is easier, the mind and body learn a little more about endurance, self-control, and commitment. Effort is not about perfection or urgency. It is about presence and consistency. Every time you resist the pull of comfort, you demonstrate to yourself that you are capable of control. That demonstration grows stronger with each repetition. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes habitual. The mind begins to expect persistence rather than surrender. The body adapts to action rather than avoidance. The sense of control that develops in those moments is quiet, profound, and life-changing. The struggle against comfort is often internal. The mind debates, procrastinates, and justifies delay. I am too tired, it says. I will start tomorrow, it insists. It's not the right time, it reasons. These are familiar arguments that everyone knows. What separates those who succeed from those who don't is the decision to act regardless. Extreme willpower begins when you no longer negotiate with excuses. You acknowledge the resistance, observe it, and choose action anyway. This choice does not require perfect conditions, unlimited energy, or high motivation. It requires clarity of intention and the willingness to act in spite of discomfort. Choosing effort when comfort feels easier requires self-awareness. It requires noticing the moments when the mind seeks the easy route and recognizing them for what they are. Anger, boredom, fatigue, and distraction are signals, not commands. They inform you that your mind prefers ease. Willpower is the ability to act deliberately despite these signals. Every time you notice an urge to take the easy path and instead take the hard one, you train the mind and body to follow purpose rather than impulse. Effort produces immediate sensory feedback. Your muscles tense as you work. Your breath quickens as you push through discomfort. Your mind struggles to focus, yet every repetition, every step taken against resistance, reinforces the capacity for persistence. Over time, the repeated sensation of effort becomes familiar. The initial tension transforms into a quiet comfort. The body and mind learn that discomfort is temporary, while the satisfaction of accomplishment is enduring. That learning is at the core of building extreme willpower. Small decisions compound into lasting habits. Waking up early when the body wants more rest, completing tasks fully when motivation fades, saying no to distractions when they seem appealing. These moments accumulate. Each choice strengthens your ability to act under pressure. Each moment of resisted comfort becomes a vote for your future self. Extreme willpower is the result of repeated alignment between action and intention. It is built quietly, steadily, and relentlessly. The mind often fears discomfort because it perceives it as a threat. Willpower does not remove discomfort. It teaches you to act while discomfort exists. The key is noticing the fear, observing the tension, and moving forward anyway. Doing this repeatedly rewires the way the brain responds to challenge. Over time, tasks that once felt unbearable begin to feel manageable. Motivation becomes secondary to commitment. You do not wait to feel ready. You act, and readiness follows action. Comfort often hides behind rationalization. Busy schedules, exhaustion, or lack of inspiration can seem like legitimate reasons to delay. Willpower requires evaluating these rationalizations and deciding whether they serve your long-term goals or simply satisfy short-term. Choosing effort does not require eliminating discomfort or creating ideal conditions. It requires the conscious decision to prioritize progress over temporary ease. The mind learns that action is the standard, not delay. Effort also strengthens self-respect. Each time you choose action over comfort, you reinforce the belief that your decisions have value. You trust yourself to follow through. That trust fuels further action, creating a positive cycle of self-reliance. When challenges arise, you are better prepared to face them with composure and focus. Your internal authority grows, and external circumstances matter less because your sense of control comes from within. Extreme willpower is supported by routine and structure. Habits reduce the mental friction that makes effort feel optional. By establishing consistent patterns of behavior, you make action automatic. You prepare the mind to act even when motivation is low. Structured effort reduces decision fatigue and allows consistent action to compound into mastery. Momentum is built not in sporadic bursts, but through deliberate, repeated effort in ordinary moments. Patience is essential. Progress does not arrive instantly. The rewards of choosing effort over comfort accumulate over time. Some days action feels futile. Results seem invisible, and the mind questions whether the effort is worth it. Those are precisely the moments that matter most. Persisting through these times reinforces resilience, deepens self-trust, and strengthens the ability to act consistently under any circumstances. Extreme willpower is cultivated in these quiet tests of endurance. Discipline involves controlling both action and thought. The mind will generate reasons to avoid effort. It will invent distractions, justify delay, and criticize effort. Observing these mental patterns without succumbing to them is part of developing willpower. You do not need to silence the mind, only to choose action, regardless of what it suggests. That choice, repeated, builds mental resilience, clarity, and focus. Accountability reinforces commitment. Taking responsibility for your actions ensures that you do not rely on external validation to maintain effort. When you acknowledge your own power to act and accept the consequences of inaction, you strengthen internal authority. This sense of ownership is critical for extreme willpower. It shifts control from outside influences to yourself, creating stability and confidence. Self-mastery also involves emotional awareness. Frustration, anxiety, and self-doubt often accompany discomfort. Recognizing these feelings without letting them dictate behavior allows for deliberate action. The mind learns to tolerate temporary negative sensations in service of longer-term goals. Over time, emotional stability becomes a natural companion to effort, making action more consistent and sustainable. Every choice to act strengthens identity. Repeatedly choosing effort over comfort shapes how you see yourself. You no longer identify as someone who procrastinates, hesitates, or avoids difficulty. You become someone who acts with purpose, follows through, and meets challenges head-on. Identity becomes the foundation for sustained willpower, because the mind acts in alignment with self-perception. Resistance diminishes with repetition. The first time effort feels heavy. It is exhausting. By the 10th time, it is familiar. After the 100th, it is expected. The brain and body adapt. Willpower becomes habitual. You act because it is natural, not because you force yourself. Comfort loses its power over decisions, because persistence becomes the default. Extreme willpower does not demand perfection. Mistakes, fatigue, and setbacks are inevitable. The difference is in response. Each time you return to effort after yielding to comfort, resilience strengthens. Every recovered choice reinforces capability and teaches the mind that temporary surrender does not define the long-term pattern. Persistence shapes identity, habit, and mental endurance. The benefits of choosing effort extend beyond tasks and goals. They shape confidence, emotional stability, and self-respect. You gain trust in your own capacity to act. You reduce anxiety about uncertainty, because you know you can handle discomfort. The mind, trained through repeated action, becomes more reliable. This internal trust is what sustains extreme willpower across all areas of life. Comfort is fleeting. Effort builds long-term capability. Short-term relief satisfies temporarily, but undermines growth. Action strengthens character, builds confidence, and creates freedom. Each decision to act against ease adds up. Small choices accumulate into habits. Habits form identity. Identity shapes a life. This is the essence of extreme willpower. Choosing effort when comfort feels easier is not about heroism. It is about responsibility. It is about treating yourself as someone capable of consistent action. It is about honoring your goals, values, and potential above temporary relief. This practice, repeated day after day, builds not only willpower, but resilience, focus, and the ability to navigate any challenge life presents. Every day presents opportunities to choose effort. Some are obvious, some are hidden, in small moments. Every time you resist the pull of ease, you strengthen your mind and body. You create momentum, deepen focus, and build a track record of reliability with yourself. Over time, these accumulated choices make extreme willpower not a rare trait, but a defining part of who you are. This is how extraordinary discipline is formed. It is quiet, deliberate, and persistent. It grows in ordinary moments and private choices. Every time effort is chosen, when comfort is easier, the mind learns control. The body learns endurance. Your future self gains strength. Extreme willpower is built, not given, and it begins with a single decision: to act even when it feels hard, inconvenient, or unnecessary. Chapter 2. Stay present while urges rise, then fade. Urges come and go like waves. They arrive suddenly, demanding attention, and feel almost impossible to resist. The craving for distraction, comfort, or avoidance is strong, sharp, and immediate. It is easy to believe that giving in is the only option. Most people surrender to these impulses because they feel urgent and overwhelming. Staying present while an urge rises is the first step to mastering them. Awareness of what is happening in your body, mind, and surroundings allows you to recognize the urge without being controlled by it. You do not need to fight the sensation or push it away. You simply observe it. You notice the tension in your muscles, the quickening of your breath, the insistence of the thought. You acknowledge it exists. By staying present, you step outside the automatic reaction that normally governs behavior. Urges are temporary, they reach a peak, linger, and then gradually subside. The mind, untrained, often interprets them as permanent threats. It magnifies their intensity, making them seem unavoidable. By remaining conscious of the present moment, you witness the rise and fall of the urge without reacting impulsively. You understand that the discomfort is passing. This awareness builds the ability to make deliberate choices rather than impulsive ones. Extreme willpower is not the absence of temptation. It is the capacity to face temptation fully, remain aware, and let it pass without surrendering control. The body and mind react to urges in predictable ways. Heart rate increases, thoughts spiral, and tension accumulates. Each sensation signals a challenge to persistence. Observing these signals rather than resisting them provides insight into your patterns. You see the moments when you are most vulnerable and the sensations that accompany them. By naming these sensations and acknowledging their temporary nature, you reduce their power over decision-making. Presence transforms the experience from one of struggle to one of conscious choice. Focus on breath anchors presence. Simple, deliberate breathing directs attention inward and grounds the mind. When an urge arises, taking a few conscious breaths slows the racing thoughts and reduces physical tension. The mind becomes less likely to react impulsively. Breath becomes a tool to maintain stability, allowing the urge to pass without dominating behavior. Each completed cycle of noticing, breathing, and observing strengthens the ability to remain present in the face of future impulses. Urges are often accompanied by mental narratives. The mind justifies indulgence, exaggerates need, or predicts failure if the urge is ignored. These thoughts are normal, but they are not commands. Observing these narratives without engaging them is a critical skill. You allow the thoughts to exist without action. The story of the mind can be present while behavior remains intentional. This separation between thought and action is the foundation of extreme self-control. Physical sensations of urges are fleeting. The tension in your chest, the tightness in your stomach, or the restlessness in your limbs reaches a climax and then dissipates. Awareness of this pattern reduces fear and anxiety around discomfort. Knowing that every urge follows a natural rise and decline removes the illusion that impulse is permanent. Acting from this perspective makes self-discipline natural rather than forced. The body learns that temporary discomfort is safe and does not require immediate relief. Observing urges without reacting teaches patience. The mind expects immediate resolution, yet resistance requires endurance. Staying present allows you to experience the full intensity of the urge without surrendering. Each completed experience of observing the rise and fall strengthens the ability to tolerate discomfort. Tolerance is a cornerstone of extreme willpower. Without patience, urges dominate behavior. With it, impulses are acknowledged but not obeyed. Emotional intensity often accompanies urges. Frustration, anxiety, or desire may feel consuming. Presence allows you to note the emotion without becoming immersed in it. The sensation is real, but it does not demand action. This emotional regulation reduces impulsivity and reinforces deliberate choice. Willpower grows not from denial, but from conscious observation and measured response. Every moment spent in awareness reinforces resilience and the capacity to act independently of fleeting desire. Awareness is strengthened through practice. Each time you notice an urge and remain present, you reinforce neural pathways that support self-control. Over time, the ability to observe without reacting becomes second nature. You are less likely to feel controlled by impulses and more likely to act in alignment with long-term goals. The skill compounds and with repeated practice, your mind begins to expect conscious presence rather than automatic surrender. Discomfort is inevitable when urges arise. Trying to eliminate it creates tension, resistance, and internal conflict. Instead, embracing discomfort as part of the process transforms it from an obstacle into a teacher. Each urge becomes an opportunity to practice attention, patience, and persistence. The moment of tension is temporary, and the ability to remain present builds strength that extends into all areas of life. The mind learns that impulses are manageable and that control is not only possible, but natural. Observing the mind requires honesty. You must recognize when it wants relief, justification, or distraction. You notice the thoughts without judgment, labeling them silently in your mind as this is an urge or this is a craving, creates distance between experience and reaction. Distance provides choice. Once choice is established, behavior can align with intention. Awareness and honesty together make it possible to resist immediate impulses and make deliberate action. Urges rise more strongly when attention is fragmented. Focus on the present reduces susceptibility. Direct attention to what is real. The body, the breath, the task at hand, rather than the imagined reward or relief the urge promises. Clarity emerges when attention is grounded in reality. Impulses lose their immediacy, and the mind can evaluate them calmly. This practice develops both concentration and resilience, central components of extreme willpower. Impulse is often strongest when the mind anticipates future satisfaction. The promise of relief creates urgency. Awareness interrupts this cycle by noticing that the craving is only a temporary signal and not an immediate necessity. The power of anticipation is reduced. You begin to respond to reality rather than mental projections. Over time, the mind learns to separate perceived need from actual need. Action becomes intentional rather than reactive. Patience combined with observation strengthens discipline. Each urge experienced fully and allowed to pass without reaction reinforces confidence in self-control. The body and mind internalize the pattern. Over time, the perception of urgency diminishes. Willpower becomes consistent because it is trained through repeated experience rather than theoretical understanding. The mind gains proof of capability. Remaining present requires acknowledgement of discomfort, not avoidance. Physical sensations, emotional tension, and racing thoughts are noted calmly. They are observed as events occurring in the body and mind. This form of attention reduces the emotional charge of the experience. The urge becomes a phenomenon to watch, rather than a force that dictates action. Over time, this perspective diminishes the intensity of impulses and makes conscious choice habitual. Attention to detail enhances resilience. Noticing the subtle changes in intensity of the urge, how the tension shifts, how the thought pattern evolves, gives insight. You recognize the natural trajectory of impulses. Knowing the stages of rise, peak, and decline provides reassurance and reduces the fear of succumbing. Mindfulness in this context is a training ground for extreme willpower because it reinforces observation over reaction. The moment of highest tension is the critical test. Urges feel strongest just before they naturally start to fade. Recognizing that the peak is temporary allows the mind to endure the height without giving in. Remaining present at this point requires focus and calm acceptance. This practice develops the mental strength necessary to persist through challenges in other areas of life. Extreme willpower emerges as a result of repeated engagement with these peaks. Every urge observed without reaction reinforces confidence. Each experience demonstrates that the mind can tolerate discomfort. This reinforces trust in your own ability to act intentionally. Confidence grows quietly and steadily. It is not dependent on external validation, but on repeated personal proof.
Over time, the accumulation of these experiences solidifies the foundation for extreme willpower. Self-control becomes automatic when presence is consistent. The mind, repeatedly trained to witness urges without reacting, develops new patterns. Impulse loses dominance over behavior. You respond from intention rather than habit. This automaticity does not eliminate difficulty, it reduces resistance and makes deliberate action reliable. The practice of observing urges trains both patience and persistence in a measurable, lasting way. Presence allows for evaluation of options. When an urge arises, conscious awareness enables a decision: act on it or wait. Each pause provides data, insight, and clarity. Decisions are no longer dictated by the strongest emotion or the loudest craving. Action is grounded in judgment, reason, and alignment with goal. The capacity to choose deliberately is a hallmark of extreme willpower. Persistence is built through repetition. Every observed and endured urge strengthens the mind. Each time you notice, accept, and allow the urge to pass, the neural pathways for self-discipline are reinforced. Resistance becomes manageable, discomfort tolerable, and intentional action habitual. Over time, these repeated experiences create resilience and reliability in behavior. Willpower trained through presence has far-reaching effect. Beyond immediate impulses, it develops patience, emotional regulation, and focus. The mind becomes accustomed to sustaining attention, tolerating tension, and making intentional choices. Habits of thought and action begin to align with long-term objectives. Life becomes less reactive, more controlled, and more consistent because decision-making is grounded in awareness. Ultimately, extreme willpower is the ability to observe urges fully, remain grounded, and act in alignment with intention rather than impulse. By staying present as urges rise and fade, the mind learns to withstand discomfort, tolerate tension, and maintain focus. Action becomes a result of conscious choice rather than emotional pressure. The repeated practice of presence transforms internal patterns, strengthens self-control, and solidifies the ability to act consistently in service of long-term goals. Every urge observed and endured contributes to personal mastery. The accumulation of these moments builds resilience, self-trust, and focus. Comfort loses its power because the mind has learned to remain attentive, patient, and intentional. Extreme willpower is not built in moments when impulses are absent. It is forged in the moments of awareness, during the rise and fall of every craving, desire, or distraction. Presence makes persistence natural, and repeated practice makes self-discipline reliable.
Chapter 3. Finish tasks even after motivation disappears completely. Motivation is a fleeting resource. It comes in bursts, often at the beginning of a project, a goal, or a task. It feels strong, energizing, and inspiring at first. The problem is that motivation never lasts. It fades with time, distraction, and fatigue. Waiting for it to return before completing important work is a trap that keeps most people from achieving anything meaningful. Extreme willpower is built not on the presence of motivation, but on the ability to continue action after it disappears. Finishing tasks when motivation has vanished separates those who succeed from those who fail. It requires discipline, focus, and a commitment to results that transcends temporary feelings. The first step is recognizing that motivation is unreliable. Emotions are not permanent guides for action. Desire, excitement, and enthusiasm are helpful allies when present, but they cannot be depended upon to sustain progress. The work that matters often feels difficult, boring, or draining, especially once initial excitement fades. Accepting this reality shifts the responsibility for action from external feelings to internal choice. You act not because you feel like it, but because you know it is necessary. This awareness transforms the approach to work, turning completion into a habit rather than an occasional achievement. Action must precede emotion. Most people wait to feel ready before starting or continuing. Waiting for the right mood is waiting for an unpredictable external signal. Those who develop extreme willpower begin tasks regardless of emotional state. They show up consistently, even when the mind resists, the body aches, or the heart complains. The act of persistence becomes the generator of progress, not motivation. Completing tasks after motivation fades is a skill that strengthens with repetition. Each successful completion reinforces self-trust and confidence. Breaking work into clear, actionable steps reduces the friction caused by low motivation. When energy is low, large tasks can feel impossible. Dividing them into small, manageable actions allows forward movement without requiring inspiration. Completing a single step builds momentum and demonstrates capability. Momentum does not require excitement, it requires focus and consistent effort. Step by step, the work is finished even when enthusiasm is absent. This method teaches the mind that results are the product of persistent action, not emotional highs. Consistency is more important than intensity. Many people rely on bursts of energy to complete tasks. This approach is unreliable because it is governed by fluctuating motivation. Extreme willpower is built by acting at the same time, every day, and completing tasks regardless of desire. Consistent effort compounds over time. The discipline of finishing projects without waiting for motivation ensures that goals are achieved and deadlines are respected. Over time, reliability becomes a hallmark of character and ability. Self-talk plays a critical role. The mind often invents reasons to avoid work when motivation fades. Thoughts like "I am too tired," "I will do it later," or "this isn't important right now," are common. Observing these thoughts and choosing to act anyway builds mental resilience. Action becomes an independent decision, free from the fluctuations of feeling. Each time you finish a task despite inner resistance, self-confidence grows, and reliance on temporary motivation decreases. Time management supports completion. Waiting for inspiration is a form of procrastination disguised as planning. By structuring time deliberately, with designated periods for work regardless of mood, you remove the choice to delay. Work becomes a predictable, non-negotiable part of the day. The brain learns to act according to schedule rather than emotion. Predictable patterns of action build endurance and reliability, ensuring that important tasks are completed consistently. Discomfort accompanies low motivation. Fatigue, boredom, and frustration are normal signals that the mind prefers rest over action. Choosing to continue despite these feelings strengthens tolerance for discomfort. Each act of persistence trains the mind and body to endure temporary difficulty in pursuit of long-term goals. Over time, the ability to continue despite discomfort becomes natural. Motivation is no longer a prerequisite for accomplishment because action becomes habitual. The mind often overestimates obstacles when enthusiasm fades. Tasks appear larger, more complicated, and more draining than they are. By committing to finish despite diminished energy, you reduce the influence of exaggeration. Focus on tangible actions rather than imagined difficulty. The mind learns that persistence reduces perceived barriers. Each step taken despite resistance shrinks the gap between intention and accomplishment. This mental training strengthens resolve and builds the foundation for extreme willpower. Prioritization clarifies what must be done. Low motivation makes it easy to ignore critical work in favor of easier or more pleasant tasks. Identifying the most important actions ensures that energy, even when scarce, is invested where it matters most. Focused effort on high-priority tasks reinforces the sense of accomplishment and progress. Completion becomes less about emotion and more about results, making discipline sustainable in the long term. Accountability increases follow-through. When you commit to others, deadlines or measurable outcomes, finishing tasks becomes a responsibility rather than a choice. Accountability provides external structure that supports internal willpower. It creates a sense of obligation that sustains action even when motivation disappears. Over time, repeated acts of following through despite internal resistance reinforce identity and self-trust. The reward is tangible and immediate. Completing work without motivation generates a sense of competence and self-respect. You prove to yourself that consistency matters more than feeling inspired. This validation reinforces further action. Momentum builds, not from temporary excitement, but from repeated demonstration of capacity. Achievement becomes a habit rather than a series of fortunate circumstances. Planning for resistance improves results. Expect low motivation and prepare for it. Have clear steps, tools, and resources ready so that continuation is automatic. Knowing what to do in advance reduces decision fatigue, which can otherwise exacerbate avoidance. Preparation ensures that completion is possible regardless of emotional state. Over time, this creates a pattern of reliability and endurance. Observation of internal state is essential. Recognize when energy wanes, focus decreases, or attention drifts. These are signals to rely on discipline rather than desire. Acting in these moments strengthens the mind's capacity for control. Each completed task after motivation fades reinforces the principle that action depends on choice, not feeling. This practice builds consistency, reliability, and confidence in personal agency. Action reinforces identity. Those who finish work regardless of mood begin to see themselves as capable, disciplined, and committed. Identity drives behavior more reliably than motivation. By consistently completing tasks, you cultivate self-perception as someone who follows through. This self-image sustains future action, even in the absence of enthusiasm, reducing reliance on temporary emotional states. Effort generates internal momentum. Each step completed when energy is low triggers a sense of progress. Even small actions produce psychological reinforcement. The brain begins to expect completion as a standard response, reducing resistance over time. Habits of follow-through emerge naturally when work is consistently finished regardless of initial feeling. This internal momentum becomes a powerful driver of long-term achievement. Interruptions and distractions test resolve. When motivation is absent, it is easy to succumb to temptation. Extreme willpower develops when you maintain focus despite external stimuli. Each moment of continued action reinforces self-discipline. The brain learns that external factors and fluctuating moods are not determinants of behavior. Completion becomes habitual, predictable, and independent of circumstance. Reflection strengthens learning. After completing work without motivation, review the process. Notice how resistance appeared, how action was sustained, and how success was felt. This reflection reinforces neural pathways associated with deliberate action. Understanding the mechanics of persistence improves future capacity to continue when motivation is absent. Over time, completion becomes instinctive and self-trust deepens. The habit of finishing fosters resilience. Life inevitably presents challenges that require continued effort without excitement or inspiration. Practicing task completion in ordinary circumstances trains the mind to endure difficulty, stay focused, and maintain discipline under pressure. Each success reinforces the ability to persist in more demanding situations. Resilience and willpower grow hand in hand through repeated practice. Completion generates clarity. Unfinished tasks create mental clutter, anxiety, and distraction. By finishing work regardless of motivation, the mind gains space to focus on the next priority. This clarity reduces stress, improves decision-making, and strengthens attention. The act of finishing tasks under challenging conditions
trains both cognitive and emotional faculties for sustained performance. Willpower thrives under responsibility, owning tasks fully and committing to completion, regardless of feeling, strengthens internal authority. You learn to act on principle rather than impulse. Each completed task reinforces the understanding that progress is the product of deliberate effort, not temporary mood. Self-discipline becomes reliable, measurable, and independent of emotion. Completing tasks after motivation fades creates momentum in all areas of life. Confidence grows, focus deepens, and the ability to endure challenges strengthens. The body, mind, and habits adapt to sustained action. Over time, completion becomes the default, and reliance on fleeting enthusiasm disappears. Extreme willpower is forged through repeated acts of follow-through when doing so feels difficult, inconvenient, or undesired. Action builds habit, and habit builds character. Each instance of finishing a task despite low motivation demonstrates consistency, reliability, and capability. Character is strengthened by these repeated choices, creating a foundation for achievement, self-respect, and internal authority. Motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. The act of finishing tasks is the engine that drives progress, success, and personal growth. Discipline transforms ordinary days into extraordinary results. Completing work when you do not feel like it accumulates into accomplishments that define success. Extreme willpower is the ability to act independently of feeling, reliably, and with focus. Every repeated action reinforces the principle that effort matters more than temporary emotion. This principle becomes ingrained, creating unstoppable momentum toward long-term goals. The ability to finish when motivation disappears distinguishes ordinary from extraordinary. Most people abandon work when excitement fades. Those who persist develop a reputation for reliability, mastery, and capability. This reputation is grounded not in talent or luck, but in repeated demonstration of discipline. Each act of completion strengthens future capacity to act consistently, regardless of mood. Every task completed without motivation reinforces self-efficacy. You prove to yourself that action is always possible. The mind internalizes that resistance can be overcome, discomfort tolerated, and progress achieved. This creates a foundation for extreme willpower that is resilient, adaptable, and self-sustaining. Action transforms intention into reality. Desire alone does not produce results. Motivation fuels beginnings, but does not sustain them. The work that matters is completed through persistent action, deliberate focus, and a refusal to surrender to temporary feeling. The mind, body, and habits are strengthened through this process, producing not only results, but a deep, reliable sense of personal capability.
Chapter 4. Delay pleasure to strengthen decision control daily. Immediate pleasure is tempting. Every day, life offers choices that promise instant gratification. A delicious snack, a quick scroll through social media, or a small indulgence seems harmless in the moment. The problem is that consistently choosing immediate comfort erodes self-discipline. The capacity to make deliberate strategic choices weakens when every action is governed by short-term desire. Extreme willpower is not the absence of pleasure, but the ability to delay it purposefully. Strengthening decision control requires recognizing the value of patience and consistently choosing what aligns with long-term goals over temporary satisfaction. Each choice to delay gratification builds mental strength and resilience. The first step is awareness. Notice when urges for immediate pleasure arise. Pay attention to the sensations in your body, the thoughts in your mind, and the feelings that accompany the desire. Understanding these signals is essential because it separates impulse from choice. The urge may feel urgent, but its intensity is temporary. Observing it without acting immediately creates space to decide deliberately. Awareness transforms reactive behavior into intentional action. Decision control is built through repetition. Each time pleasure is postponed, the mind strengthens the neural pathways associated with patience and self-regulation. The more consistently you practice delaying gratification, the easier it becomes to resist impulsive behavior in the future. This repeated practice turns patience from a concept into a habit. Over time, choosing long-term benefit over short-term pleasure becomes automatic rather than a constant struggle. It is important to define the value of delayed pleasure. When the reward of patience is clear, the ability to resist diminishes resistance. For instance, skipping a small indulgence today may allow for greater financial security tomorrow. Passing on a fleeting distraction could create more time for meaningful achievement. Clarity on the benefits of waiting strengthens resolve. The mind begins to associate delayed action with tangible gain, reinforcing discipline and reinforcing long-term thinking. Temptation often grows strongest when attention is distracted. When the mind is fatigued or unengaged, impulses become more persuasive. Strengthening decision control requires focus. Direct attention toward the long-term consequences of choice rather than the immediate appeal of pleasure. Visualization of outcomes can reinforce the importance of restraint. Seeing the bigger picture mentally makes the short-term sacrifice feel meaningful and manageable. Awareness of emotional triggers is critical. Pleasure-seeking behavior often arises in response to boredom, stress, or discomfort. Recognizing these emotional states allows you to address the underlying cause rather than automatically giving in to impulse. For example, instead of reaching for a snack when stressed, you might take a moment to breathe, move, or reflect. This practice shifts control from automatic reaction to conscious decision-making, which strengthens willpower over time. Establishing small daily practices reinforces self-control. Simple exercises like waiting an extra 10 minutes before eating, declining an unnecessary purchase, or finishing a task before rewarding yourself train the mind. Each small act of delay builds confidence and reinforces the principle that gratification is not urgent. The accumulation of these small victories compounds into a reliable habit of self-regulation. Resisting pleasure also strengthens clarity of thought. Impulses often cloud judgment, leading to decisions that may provide short-term relief but long-term loss. By practicing restraint, the mind maintains focus on priorities and values. Decision-making becomes sharper and more aligned with personal goals. Mental clarity emerges from the consistent application of patience and conscious choice. Discomfort is inevitable when delaying pleasure. The mind resists restraint and signals dissatisfaction. This resistance is temporary and signals growth. By facing the unease directly, rather than surrendering to it, tolerance for delayed satisfaction increases. The more frequently you practice, the less intimidating the discomfort becomes. Delaying pleasure conditions the mind to endure challenges without losing composure or control. External environment influences choices. Immediate pleasure is often made convenient through availability and habit. Reducing access to impulsive rewards strengthens decision-making. For instance, keeping tempting snacks out of reach or limiting time on distracting apps decreases the frequency of reactive behavior. Structuring the environment to support delayed gratification makes self-control easier to sustain and less mentally draining. Accountability reinforces restraint. Sharing goals or commitments with others can create a sense of responsibility that supports delayed action. The social dimension of accountability strengthens the mind's ability to resist immediate satisfaction. Knowing that others are aware of your commitments encourages consistent practice. Over time, external accountability builds internal discipline, making restraint habitual and less effortful. Tracking progress provides motivation and insight, Recording moments when pleasure is delayed helps visualize growth and strengthens self-efficacy. Reviewing these records demonstrates that choice and control are possible, even when impulses are strong. Each successful decision reinforces the mind's confidence, making it easier to continue resisting future temptation. The act of tracking progress also adds structure and intentionality to self-regulation practice. Delayed pleasure strengthens emotional resilience. Impulses are often emotionally charged, designed to provide instant comfort or excitement. By resisting these urges, emotional strength develops. The mind learns to manage stress, boredom, or discomfort without relying on external rewards. This emotional stability carries over to other areas of life, making challenges more manageable and decisions more intentional. Reward systems can be strategic. Delaying pleasure does not mean eliminating satisfaction entirely. Scheduling intentional rewards after effort reinforces motivation and validates restraint. For example, completing a challenging task before enjoying a leisure activity strengthens the association between effort and reward. Controlled and purposeful enjoyment maintains balance and prevents burnout while continuing to train self-discipline. Reflection enhances learning. Observing when and why impulses arise reveals patterns that can be addressed proactively. Understanding triggers, timing, and context improves decision-making and reduces reactive behavior. Each reflection reinforces awareness, teaches the mind about internal tendencies, and guides better preparation for future choices. Self-reflection turns everyday experiences into practical training for extreme willpower. Habits form the backbone of delayed gratification. Repeatedly choosing restraint in predictable situations makes the choice automatic over time. Habits reduce mental fatigue and conserve energy for more complex decisions. Consistent practice in small areas of life compounds into broader self-control, reinforcing a general capacity for restraint across multiple contexts. Each choice strengthens neural pathways that support long-term thinking and disciplined behavior. Patience is cultivated through repetition. Delaying pleasure requires waiting, sometimes through discomfort or temptation. Repeated exposure trains the mind to accept waiting as normal. Over time, patience becomes instinctive, reducing the perceived cost of restraint. This process builds endurance for long-term goals and strengthens overall decision-making capacity. Focus on purpose reinforces control. When immediate gratification is tempting, reminding yourself of goals, values, or desired outcomes reinforces resilience. Purpose acts as a compass that guides behavior through short-term impulses. Decisions become intentional rather than reactive. The mind links action to meaning, making self-restraint more compelling and sustainable. The mind adapts through experience. Each moment of resisting pleasure teaches the brain that desires are manageable. The intensity of impulses diminishes with repeated practice. Control becomes easier and more automatic, while satisfaction from delayed rewards becomes more meaningful. Over time, this adaptation shifts perception, making restraint feel natural and habitual rather than forced. Self-discipline in small daily choices influences larger life outcomes. Mastery over minor impulses trains the mind to handle more significant decisions with clarity and composure. Delaying a simple comfort today translates into better judgment and stronger decision-making tomorrow. Extreme willpower is cumulative. Each choice to wait strengthens the capacity to navigate future challenges successfully. Internal dialogue reinforces behavior. Thoughts that rationalize immediate pleasure are natural, but choosing to question them builds strength. Challenging the voice of instant gratification with reason and perspective reinforces control.
Each deliberate decision to act in alignment with long-term goals rather than fleeting impulses strengthens confidence and reliability in personal choices. Delayed pleasure teaches responsibility. Each moment of restraint is a declaration of agency. You are choosing outcomes rather than being driven by temporary desire. The repetition of responsible action builds a sense of ownership over life and decision. This sense of control extends beyond individual tasks, influencing work, relationships, and personal growth. Reflection on the benefits of restraint solidifies learning. Observing improvements in focus, productivity, and emotional balance reinforces the value of delayed gratification. The mind associates self-control with positive outcomes, increasing the likelihood of repeated behavior. Awareness of the results transforms delay into a rewarding and motivating practice. Over time, decision control becomes instinctive. The mind internalizes the pattern of observing impulses, acknowledging them, and choosing deliberate action. Resistance becomes manageable, and immediate pleasure loses power over behavior. Extreme willpower emerges not from force, but from consistent practice and structured decision-making. The cumulative effect is significant. Delaying pleasure in daily life strengthens mental, emotional, and behavioral patterns. It increases patience, focus, and resilience. The mind becomes adept at evaluating choices and acting intentionally. Over months and years, the practice compounds into a reliable habit of self-control that underpins achievement and personal growth. Each day presents opportunities to practice restraint. Immediate comfort will always be present, but the decision to wait builds power. The mind learns that satisfaction can be postponed without loss. Choices based on long-term benefit become habitual, reinforcing character, perseverance, and achievement. Extreme willpower is constructed through these repeated, conscious decisions. Every postponed reward is a step toward mastery. The repeated exercise of delaying pleasure strengthens mental fortitude, aligns behavior with goals, and develops consistent, deliberate action. Life becomes more intentional, focused, and productive. Over time, the capacity to delay gratification translates into broader success, deeper fulfillment, and a stronger sense of personal authority.
Chapter 5. Act immediately instead of arguing with yourself. Procrastination begins with argument. The moment you debate with yourself over whether to start a task, you give power to hesitation and doubt. Every second spent rationalizing, weighing options, or convincing yourself that later is fine is a second lost. Extreme willpower is built by choosing action immediately, without negotiation. The people who achieve the most do not linger in internal debate. They move, they act, and they engage with the work before hesitation has a chance to grow. Acting immediately is not impulsive. It is intentional, deliberate, and consistent with long-term goals. It is a skill that strengthens with practice, and it separates success from mediocrity. The first step is noticing the argument in your mind. Thoughts arise. I don't feel ready. This is too hard. I'll do it tomorrow. These voices are natural. The problem is giving them time to dictate action. Observing these thoughts without engaging them allows the mind to separate feeling from choice. Recognizing that the debate is optional is essential. You can acknowledge the thought but choose to act anyway. This awareness transforms hesitation into deliberate action. Immediate action requires simplification. Complex tasks or overwhelming goals often trigger internal resistance. Breaking the work into the smallest possible first step reduces friction. For example, if the goal is to exercise, the first step could be putting on shoes or stepping outside. Small action is powerful because it initiates momentum before the mind has the chance to object. Each completed step reinforces confidence and reduces the internal dialogue that slows progress. Preparation minimizes delay. Having tools, plans, and clear objectives at hand makes it easier to act immediately. When everything is ready, the argument loses its strength. Decisions are simpler and movement becomes automatic. Preparing in advance transforms immediate action from a rare skill into a standard response. Over time, the brain associates readiness with movement rather than delay, reducing resistance and increasing productivity. Internal dialogue must be redirected. The mind will naturally attempt to negotiate, question, or rationalize inaction. Counter these thoughts with statements that emphasize movement. Thoughts like "I'll wait for the right moment" are replaced with "I start now because progress matters more than perfect timing." Repetition of this mental shift trains the brain to prioritize action over argument, making immediate engagement a habit. Focus eliminates indecision. Overthinking creates mental friction that fuels argument. Instead of analyzing every angle or weighing every possibility, focus on the immediate next step. Direct attention to what you can do in this moment. Action grows naturally when mental energy is concentrated on execution rather than debate. Concentration strengthens discipline because the mind is engaged in doing rather than negotiating. Physical initiation supports mental action. Often movement precedes motivation. Standing up, picking up tools, or starting the first sentence creates a sense of momentum. The body signals the mind that work is underway, reducing resistance. Physical motion reduces the purr of hesitation and argument. Each act of moving before thinking reinforces the pattern of immediate engagement. Accountability reinforces follow-through. Committing to deadlines, sharing intentions, or publicly stating goals creates pressure to act. This external structure supports internal willpower by providing stakes that make delay less acceptable. When you know someone else expects action, internal argument diminishes and immediate movement becomes the default response. Over time, accountability strengthens discipline even without external pressure. Awareness of emotional resistance is crucial. Resistance often masquerades as rational argument. Feelings of fear, self-doubt, or uncertainty appear as mental debate. Recognizing these emotions allows you to act in spite of them. Each time action precedes fear or doubt, the mind learns that success does not require certainty. Willpower grows as courage becomes habitual through repeated choices to act first. Consistency is a building block of immediate action. Acting without delay once reinforces the likelihood of acting without delay again. Every completed task reduces the power of hesitation in future situations. Momentum compounds and self-trust strengthens. The more frequently you practice action before argument, the less influence doubt has over your decisions. Time awareness emphasizes urgency. Hesitation wastes valuable minutes, hours, and days. Immediate action prioritizes what can be done now rather than waiting for ideal conditions. Recognizing the finite nature of time encourages decisive movement. Each moment of prompt action demonstrates respect for opportunity, strengthens focus, and creates a rhythm of disciplined productivity. Mental rehearsal enhances responsiveness. Anticipating moments of hesitation allows pre-planning of action. Visualizing the process of moving immediately, rather than debating, creates neural patterns that make it easier to act in reality. Mental preparation conditions the mind for prompt engagement, reducing the friction of uncertainty or fear. Overcoming perfectionism is essential. Many arguments with oneself stem from wanting ideal conditions or flawless execution. Extreme willpower demands moving forward even when conditions are imperfect. Progress outweighs perfection. Acting despite uncertainty builds skill, confidence, and momentum. Waiting for everything to align perfectly is a luxury that delays results indefinitely. Emotional regulation supports action. Internal argument often intensifies when emotions are heightened. Frustration, anxiety, or fear can immobilize the mind. Acknowledging these emotions while proceeding with the task develops resilience. Acting with emotional awareness, rather than letting feelings dictate timing, strengthens control over both behavior and response. Small actions reinforce identity. Each instance of acting immediately builds self-perception as a decisive and capable person. Identity drives behavior more reliably than fleeting motivation. When you see yourself as someone who starts without hesitation, the mind naturally aligns with that behavior. Immediate action becomes part of who you are rather than a conscious effort. Rewards must be structured wisely. Immediate gratification can be misleading. Strategic rewards for completed action, rather than instant indulgence, reinforce discipline. The satisfaction of progress after acting promptly is more meaningful than temporary pleasure from delay. Reinforcing the connection between action and reward strengthens the habit of moving without argument. Reflection strengthens learning. After completing tasks immediately, evaluate the process. Notice the reduction in stress, increase in confidence, and sense of accomplishment. Reflecting on successes solidifies the mental association between prompt action and positive outcomes. Each observation reinforces the principle that action produces results, and hesitation wastes opportunity. Breaking the chain of thought is critical. Arguments with yourself often start with rumination or overthinking. Interrupting the mental cycle by engaging in physical or mental action breaks inertia. The mind associates starting with doing, reducing the ability of hesitation to take hold. Each successful interruption builds automaticity and prompt engagement. Discipline extends beyond work. Immediate action applies to communication, decisions, and personal commitments. Responding without internal debate in multiple areas of life strengthens overall willpower. The brain generalizes these patterns, making rapid, deliberate action the norm rather than the exception. Habitual prompt action enhances effectiveness across professional, personal, and social context. Environment influences responsive. Clutter, distractions, or unstructured spaces increase hesitation. Organizing surroundings to facilitate immediate action reduces friction. When tools, information, and resources are within reach, the mind is free to move without argument. A supportive environment reinforces consistent prompt behavior. Mindset shapes engagement. Viewing action as the path to clarity and results, rather than a chore, reduces internal resistance. Each movement produces tangible feedback, reinforcing the value of acting now rather than debating. Perspective transforms hesitation from a mental battle into an unnecessary delay. Each completed task validates the principle that action creates opportunity. Challenges test immediate engagement. Difficult or undesirable tasks are the true measure of willpower. Moving promptly despite resistance develops resilience. Each successful encounter strengthens confidence and reduces future hesitation. The mind learns that obstacles do not justify delay. Action becomes an expression of capability, not reaction to circumstance. Internal praise reinforces behavior. Acknowledge each time action precedes argument. Celebrating small victories builds motivation and self-respect. Recognition of consistent prompt behavior enhances identity and strengthens the habit. Self-acknowledgement amplifies mental conditioning, making immediate action more instinctive and rewarding. Decision simplicity supports movement. Clear binary choices reduce internal negotiation. Instead of debating every nuance, focus on one action that moves toward progress. Reducing options limits argument and strengthens decisiveness.
Simplicity in decision-making reinforces immediate engagement and enhances efficiency. Persistence compounds results. Immediate action ensures consistent progress even when effort feels minimal. Each completed step builds cumulative impact. Momentum grows with every prompt response. Willpower expands as the habit of action strengthens, producing compounding benefits in skill, productivity, and personal growth. Immediate action creates clarity. Hesitation breeds confusion and indecision. Moving before argument produces concrete outcomes, providing feedback and insight. The mind can then adapt, adjust, and improve based on real experience, rather than hypothetical deliberation. Results replace uncertainty, reinforcing the power of decisive behavior. Overcoming internal resistance develops courage. Every act of moving despite hesitation builds confidence in your ability to act under pressure. Courage grows through repetition, reinforcing identity as someone capable of handling uncertainty and challenge. The mind and body align toward decisive, intentional behavior, reducing fear of future tasks. Every moment of prompt action strengthens reliability. Others notice consistent, decisive behavior. Reputation, trust, and influence grow naturally from the habit of acting without hesitation. Self-trust also deepens, creating a foundation for more complex, long-term goals. Extreme willpower is reinforced by the repetition of consistent, immediate engagement.
Chapter 6. Create rules you follow without emotional debate. Discipline grows when actions are guided by clear rules. Rules are not restrictions, they are commitments to yourself that remove uncertainty and hesitation. Life is full of choices, and every day the mind will attempt to negotiate with emotions, rationalize inaction, or justify indulgence. Emotional debate undermines willpower because it allows feelings to dictate behavior instead of deliberate intention. Extreme willpower is built by establishing rules that you follow consistently, regardless of fleeting desire, mood, or circumstance. Rules transform decision-making from a daily struggle into automatic alignment with long-term goals. They reduce mental friction and create a structure that supports consistent, focused action. Start by defining core principles that matter most. Identify the areas of life where discipline produces the highest returns, whether it is health, work, finances, learning, or relationships. Rules in these domains must be simple, clear, and actionable. Complexity invites negotiation and excuses. A rule like "I will exercise 30 minutes every morning" eliminates the debate of whether today is a good day or not. It creates certainty and channels energy toward action instead of argument. Consistency is the foundation. Rules are only effective if they are applied repeatedly. Following rules day after day strengthens mental patterns and reinforces self-trust. Each time a rule is honored, the mind internalizes that commitment, making it easier to comply in the future. Repetition builds momentum, making rules feel like natural extensions of character rather than obligations. Rules must be emotion independent. The power of rules comes from following them, even when emotions resist. Motivation fluctuates, energy rises and falls, and moods change constantly. A rule applied consistently transcends these temporary states. Obedience to rules teaches the mind that action does not depend on how you feel. It depends on what you have committed to do. This creates resilience and stability in behavior, which are essential for extreme willpower. Clarity eliminates ambiguity. Vague intentions create space for emotional debate. Specific rules remove doubt. Instead of deciding, "I should read more," create a rule like "I will read 20 pages every day." Concrete rules remove room for internal negotiation, making compliance straightforward. Clarity strengthens focus, reduces hesitation, and allows effort to be applied consistently. Preparation supports adherence. Rules are easier to follow when the environment is structured to facilitate them. If a rule involves morning exercise, lay out workout clothes and prepare equipment the night before. Reducing friction allows the mind to focus on following the rule rather than overcoming obstacles. Each supportive step reinforces consistency and makes adherence effortless over time. Awareness of triggers is vital. Emotional debate often emerges when internal resistance is strongest. Recognizing situations, thoughts, or circumstances that provoke temptation allows preemptive action. When triggers are understood, the mind can anticipate resistance and rely on rules rather than feelings. Preparation strengthens the capacity to act without hesitation and maintains alignment with long-term goals. Internal dialogue must align with rules. When emotions try to challenge commitment, counter with reminders of the established rule. Statements like "I follow this rule because it serves my goals" reinforce compliance. Each reaffirmation strengthens self-control, trains the mind to prioritize commitment over temporary desire, and reduces vulnerability to excuses. Accountability amplifies adherence. Sharing rules with trusted peers or mentors creates external reinforcement. Public commitment encourages consistency because actions are observed and expectations exist. Accountability adds weight to rules and reduces the likelihood of emotional compromise. Repeated compliance under observation trains mental toughness and strengthens willpower. Flexibility is not weakness. Rules are designed to guide consistent behavior, but they should be revisited occasionally for relevance and effectiveness. Flexibility allows adaptation without compromising core principles. Evaluating rules periodically ensures that they continue to serve growth and personal objectives, rather than becoming rigid habits that hinder progress. Adaptation strengthens intentionality and preserves the integrity of discipline. Tracking progress builds momentum. Recording adherence to rules reinforces behavior and provides tangible evidence of growth. Seeing success concretely motivates continued compliance. Tracking also highlights patterns where emotional debate is most likely to arise, providing insight for improvement. Measurement strengthens confidence and creates a positive feedback loop that encourages ongoing commitment. Small victories compound. Following rules consistently in minor areas reinforces the ability to follow them in more significant domains. Each completed commitment strengthens mental patterns, increases self-efficacy, and builds a foundation for greater challenges. Extreme willpower grows from these cumulative successes, creating a strong, reliable framework for action across life. Rules protect energy. Constant decision-making drains willpower because the mind must evaluate, negotiate, and choose repeatedly. Pre-established rules conserve energy by eliminating unnecessary debate. The mental effort previously spent arguing with oneself is redirected toward productive action. This allows focus on high-priority tasks, maximizing results and reinforcing the value of structured behavior. Delayed rewards reinforce compliance. Following rules without emotional negotiation may feel restrictive at first. Rewarding yourself strategically after adherence strengthens motivation and creates a positive association with discipline. For example, completing a week of consistently followed rules can be celebrated in a controlled, intentional way. Rewards validate effort and reinforce the practice of emotional independence. Reflection solidifies understanding. Periodic evaluation of adherence to rules provides insight into personal tendencies, emotional triggers, and areas for improvement. Reflection ensures that compliance is conscious, rather than mindless. Observing successes and failures reinforces awareness, strengthens commitment, and enhances the ability to maintain willpower under stress. Rules simplify complex choices. Life presents countless decisions daily, and each carries the potential for emotional conflict. By establishing clear, actionable rules, many decisions are automated. The mind no longer debates trivial matters, reserving energy for strategic choices. Simplification reduces stress, enhances focus, and strengthens long-term discipline. Emotional regulation strengthens adherence. Rules are most effective when the mind can withstand temptation, frustration, or boredom.
Practicing restraint in small moments of emotional discomfort builds tolerance. Over time, the mind learns that compliance is independent of feelings. Emotional control and rule following reinforce one another, creating a stable, disciplined mindset. Consistency builds credibility with oneself. Each time a rule is followed, self-trust increases. Reliability in action becomes a characteristic rather than a conscious effort. This credibility strengthens confidence, reinforces identity, and reduces the mental effort required to maintain discipline. Following rules consistently shapes a person who is dependable, intentional, and focused. Habit formation reinforces rules. Repeated compliance turns rules into habits. Habits reduce the need for conscious deliberation and make discipline automatic. The mind transitions from effortful adherence to instinctive behavior. Habitual compliance frees cognitive resources, allowing attention to be directed toward new challenges, higher-level thinking, and long-term objectives. Rules protect from impulse. Many failures in discipline arise from reacting to sudden desires or emotions. Pre-established rules provide a framework to navigate these impulses without compromise. Following rules becomes the default, reducing the risk of giving in to momentary temptation. Structure and consistency shield willpower from unnecessary erosion. Accountable environments strengthen rule following. Surrounding yourself with people, systems, and conditions that support adherence increases success. For example, colleagues, mentors, or friends who respect your commitments create reinforcement. Positive pressure and supportive contexts make emotional debate less likely and consistent compliance more achievable. Rules create predictability. Predictable behavior reduces stress, enhances focus, and builds a sense of control. When actions are guided by clear commitments, life becomes more manageable. Predictability reinforces mental stability and confidence, which are critical components of sustained willpower. Reflection on outcomes reinforces purpose. Observing how following rules impacts results demonstrates the tangible benefits of discipline. Positive results strengthen motivation and clarify the value of adherence. Seeing real-life consequences reinforces mental commitment, making rules more compelling and easier to follow. Rules develop patience. Many emotional arguments stem from desire for immediate satisfaction. Clear guidelines help the mind tolerate discomfort, delay gratification, and act in alignment with long-term priority. Each moment of restraint under a rule builds patience, a critical aspect of mental strength and resilience. Decision-making improves under rules. When behavior is guided by structured principles, mental energy is preserved for complex or unpredictable choices. Rules free the mind from unnecessary debate and enable sharper focus on what truly matters. Efficiency in thought and action grows naturally, strengthening productivity and self-control. Rules support long-term growth. Discipline is not about occasional effort, but sustained progress. Following rules consistently ensures that energy and focus are directed toward meaningful objectives. Each day of adherence compounds into long-term improvement, building a foundation for achievement and personal development. Each rule followed without emotional debate reinforces identity. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of consistency, focus, and intentionality. Identity and behavior align. The mind internalizes discipline as part of who you are, reducing the need for constant negotiation or self-persuasion. Willpower becomes natural, integrated, and reliable. The cumulative effect is profound. Rules followed consistently, without emotional interference, strengthen mental patterns, reinforce self-trust, and build lasting discipline. The mind becomes resilient against distraction, temptation, and behavior becomes intentional, results-oriented, and sustainable. Extreme willpower is cultivated through these consistent, deliberate practices.
Chapter 7. Keep promises to rebuild trust with yourself. Trust is built slowly, but it can be broken instantly, especially the trust you hold with yourself. Keeping promises to yourself is not just a habit. It is the foundation of integrity, self-respect, and extreme willpower. Every commitment made and followed strengthens your sense of identity. Every promise broken chips away at confidence and creates internal friction that slows progress in all areas of life. The simplest commitments matter just as much as the biggest goals. Following through on small promises trains the mind to handle bigger challenges. Self-trust is like a muscle. It grows stronger with repetition, attention, and deliberate practice. The first step is acknowledging the promises you already make daily. These could be simple commitments like waking up at a set time, exercising, or finishing tasks you started. Recognizing that these small promises are opportunities to strengthen willpower shifts perspective. They are not minor obligations, they are building blocks of character. Each kept promise signals to your mind that you are reliable and capable, creating a foundation of confidence that will support more significant endeavors. Breaking a promise is a signal to pause and evaluate why it happened. Was it distraction, fear, fatigue, or lack of planning? Understanding the reason allows for corrective action rather than repeated failure. Reflection helps identify patterns that undermine self-trust. When you repair the reasons for breaking promises, future commitments are stronger and more achievable. Self-awareness is essential in maintaining integrity with yourself. Start small if needed. Making promises that are too ambitious too quickly increases the risk of failure. Begin with commitments you can reasonably fulfill and expand gradually. For example, promising to write for 10 minutes each day is easier to maintain than committing to a 2-hour session from the start. Consistency over time matters more than intensity in the beginning. These small successes compound, reinforcing belief in your capacity to follow through. Record promises and track adherence. Writing down commitments makes them concrete. Monitoring progress provides accountability and clarity. Reviewing completed promises offers tangible proof of capability, while noting broken promises highlights areas for improvement. This practice transforms abstract intentions into measurable actions, allowing reflection, adjustment, and reinforcement of self-trust. Emotional resistance is natural. The mind often resists following through on promises when faced with discomfort, distraction, or temptation. Recognizing this resistance as a predictable challenge rather than a reason to quit is critical. Acting despite discomfort strengthens willpower and deepens trust in your own ability to persist. Each successful follow-through teaches the mind that commitment is more powerful than fleeting feeling. Consistency is critical. One isolated act of keeping a promise is valuable, but repeated fulfillment builds a reliable pattern. The mind internalizes behavior that is repeated, reducing the need for constant self-persuasion. Consistency creates a rhythm of reliability, which strengthens identity and makes self-trust automatic over time. Each day of adherence compounds with the previous, reinforcing mental resilience and self-discipline. Set boundaries to protect your promises. Commitments are only meaningful if the conditions allow them to be fulfilled. Protect time, energy, and focus from distractions that could derail promises. Boundaries reinforce the seriousness of commitments and reduce the mental conflict between desire and obligation. Each boundary respected reinforces control over circumstances, which strengthens confidence and self-trust. Immediate action reinforces credibility. The moment a promise is made, plan the first step and act on it. Waiting, rationalizing, or delaying creates opportunity for doubt and emotional debate to interfere. Acting promptly demonstrates respect for your own commitments and strengthens self-discipline. Momentum builds with immediate movement, making the follow-through process easier and more reliable. Accountability amplifies self-trust. Sharing intentions with a trusted individual or mentor increases the likelihood of compliance. External observation adds weight to internal commitment. While ultimate responsibility is personal, accountability provides reinforcement and motivation. Each fulfilled promise under observation strengthens confidence in your reliability and sets a standard for personal integrity. Align promises with values. Commitments that reflect core beliefs and priorities are easier to honor consistently. When a promise is meaningful, the mind naturally invests effort in fulfillment. Integrity grows when behavior aligns with values, creating internal harmony. Promises made without this alignment are vulnerable to neglect, emotional debate, and diminished willpower. Preparation strengthens follow-through. Identify the steps required to fulfill a promise before starting. Remove obstacles, gather resources, and create a plan of action. The clearer the path to completion, the less room there is for hesitation. Each successfully executed promise reinforces confidence, demonstrates capability, and reduces internal friction for future commitments. Learn to repair broken promises without judgment. If a promise is broken, acknowledge it without self-criticism that undermines confidence. Reflect on the cause, adjust the plan, and recommit immediately. Repairing a lapse demonstrates resilience and reinforces the value of self-trust. Integrity is not perfection. It is the ability to correct mistakes and honor commitments consistently over time. Emphasize long-term perspective. Immediate gratification or avoidance of discomfort often tempts broken promises. Extreme willpower prioritizes long-term alignment over short-term ease. Each fulfilled promise contributes to cumulative growth, while each lapse erodes self-respect. Viewing commitments through a long-term lens strengthens the motivation to follow through, even when effort feels difficult. Reward yourself strategically. Positive reinforcement strengthens adherence. Recognizing accomplishment for keeping promises enhances the sense of achievement and motivates continued compliance. Rewards must be intentional, meaningful, and aligned with long-term objectives to prevent undermining discipline. Proper reinforcement strengthens the habit of follow-through and encourages the mind to value consistency. Reflection creates learning. After fulfilling promises, observe how completing them impacts progress, confidence, and capability. Reflection reinforces awareness of the connection between commitment and results. Similarly, reviewing failed promises identifies patterns and provides insight for improvement. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. Growth and reliability. Self-talk must support commitment. The way you speak to yourself about promises impacts adherence. Statements like "I keep my word because I respect myself" reinforce identity and strengthen self-trust. Internal dialogue that doubts, excuses, or minimizes commitments weakens willpower. Conscious reinforcement of positive self-perception aligns behavior with intention. Start with the promises that matter most. High-priority commitments establish momentum and demonstrate the power of integrity. Success with meaningful promises creates confidence that can transfer to less critical areas. Prioritizing strategically strengthens focus, ensures energy is applied effectively, and enhances the reliability of personal willpower. Tracking results strengthens accountability. Documenting kept promises allows visualization of growth and progress. Observing patterns of success provides tangible reinforcement of capability, while identifying lapses guides corrective action. Measurement converts abstract intention into actionable insight, strengthening self-discipline and follow-through. Patience is required. Some promises take time to fulfill, and results are not always immediate. Perseverance through delayed outcomes reinforces resilience and strengthens trust in your capacity to follow through over the long term. Patience builds endurance, fortifies self-respect, and sustains extreme willpower. Focus on one promise at a time if necessary. Attempting to maintain too many commitments simultaneously increases cognitive load and risks failure. Concentrating on completing a single promise enhances reliability and creates a pattern of success that can be expanded. Success breeds confidence and strengthens the internal habit of honoring commitments. Keep promises visible.
Writing them down, posting reminders, or using digital alerts ensures awareness. Constant visibility reduces the chance of accidental neglect and maintains attention on commitment. Seeing promises regularly reinforces their importance and maintains engagement. Recognize the impact on relationships. Keeping promises to yourself models integrity and consistency that extends to interactions with others. When personal reliability improves, trustworthiness in social and professional contexts also increases. This creates a foundation of respect, credibility, and influence across multiple areas of life. Adapt promises intelligent. Circumstances change, but adaptability does not mean breaking commitments arbitrarily. Adjust timelines, methods, or approaches while maintaining the core intention. Flexibility ensures commitments remain realistic and achievable, supporting long-term self-trust rather than undermining it through rigid failure. Every fulfilled promise strengthens identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who can be relied upon. Identity drives behavior more reliably than fleeting motivation. When your perception of yourself is anchored in reliability, follow-through becomes automatic, and willpower is reinforced. Character is built one kept promise at a time. The cumulative effect is profound. Keeping promises to yourself builds trust, reinforces identity, strengthens self-discipline, and enhances decision-making. Each action produces confidence, momentum, and reliability. Over time, extreme willpower becomes a natural outcome of consistent follow-through, creating a life governed by intention, integrity, and personal authority.
Chapter 8. Work through discomfort until confidence grows naturally. Discomfort is unavoidable in the pursuit of growth, and the way it is handled determines whether it becomes a barrier or a bridge to confidence. True willpower is not built in ease and comfort. It is forged in the willingness to face difficult moments and push forward when every instinct says to stop. When you consistently work through discomfort, the mind begins to recognize that challenges are not threats, but opportunities to strengthen capability. Each experience of leaning into discomfort teaches resilience, builds patience, and reinforces the belief that effort leads to mastery. The more often you confront unease directly, the more natural confidence becomes, because it is based on repeated evidence of competence rather than fragile feelings of temporary motivation. Begin by acknowledging that discomfort is not an enemy, but a signal that growth is happening. Many people avoid difficulty because it feels unpleasant, confusing, or even intimidating. The first step in cultivating extreme willpower is choosing to act despite these sensations. By reframing discomfort as information rather than opposition, the mind begins to cooperate rather than resist. Discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign that your boundaries are expanding and your capacity is increasing. Small, consistent steps are more effective than dramatic leaps. Tackling challenges in incremental ways allows the mind to adapt without becoming overwhelmed. For instance, taking on a task that stretches your abilities slightly beyond comfort trains patience, persistence, and focus. Repetition of small discomforts gradually reshapes the mind's threshold, making increasingly difficult tasks approachable. Confidence is built not through sudden breakthroughs, but through consistent exposure and persistent effort. Emotional awareness is essential. Discomfort often triggers fear, frustration, or self-doubt. By observing these emotions without reacting impulsively, you maintain clarity and control. Awareness allows the mind to differentiate between temporary sensations and long-term goals. When you act despite emotional resistance, each success reinforces the neural patterns associated with resilience, strengthening the ability to persist in future challenges. Discomfort teaches problem solving. When the mind is forced to navigate tension, uncertainty, or difficulty, creativity and strategic thinking are activated. Avoiding discomfort prevents growth because the mind never develops the capacity to respond effectively under pressure. Facing challenges repeatedly builds mental agility, enabling confident decision-making in situations that would otherwise induce hesitation or anxiety. Preparation reduces unnecessary struggle. While discomfort is inevitable, proper planning prevents avoidable stress. Identifying potential obstacles, creating structured approaches, and ensuring readiness allows energy to be directed toward growth rather than confusion or frustration. Preparation is not avoidance of challenge, it is the intentional management of circumstances to maximize efficiency and progress. Each well-prepared step reinforces confidence as the mind experiences success despite difficulty. Persistence is a key element of extreme willpower. Discomfort fades with repeated exposure, but only if action continues to set resistance. Early experiences may feel overwhelming, but the act of pushing through cultivates stamina. Each completed task reinforces a sense of competence and teaches the mind that persistence produces results. Confidence becomes less dependent on circumstances and more rooted in consistent action. Discomfort sharpens focus. When facing difficulty, the mind must prioritize effort, attention, and decision-making. Engaging with challenges fully hones concentration, reduces distraction, and strengthens mental endurance. Each experience of sustained focus in the face of unease trains the brain to operate efficiently under pressure. This creates a feedback loop where confidence grows naturally because competence is experienced repeatedly. Mindset shifts with repeated exposure. Initial reactions to discomfort may include avoidance, complaint, or self-doubt. Consistent engagement transforms these responses into determination, strategic thinking, and calm perseverance. The brain begins to associate challenge with opportunity rather than fear. This mental conditioning is essential for extreme willpower because it allows action to continue even when external circumstances are difficult or motivation is low. Resilience develops through repeated effort. Each encounter with discomfort that is successfully navigated strengthens the mind's capacity to handle future difficulties. Resilience is not built in comfort zones, it emerges when the mind is challenged and adapts to overcome obstacles. Confidence grows naturally from this process because each experience provides evidence that challenges can be met, endured, and mastered. Self-discipline is reinforced in every encounter with unease. Acting despite internal resistance trains the mind to respond according to intention rather than impulse. This consistent alignment between action and commitment strengthens willpower over time. Self-discipline is not occasional effort, it is habitual adherence to principles even when the mind resists. The repetition of this practice under discomfort solidifies both capability and self-trust. Physical responses to discomfort are instructive. Awareness of tension, fatigue, or anxiety provides feedback on the state of the mind and body. Observing these signals without reacting impulsively allows the mind to adjust approach, pace, and focus while maintaining progress. Developing this skill enhances confidence because challenges are addressed deliberately rather than avoided due to fear or impulsive reactions. Visualization and mental rehearsal support the process. Imagining oneself completing difficult tasks despite discomfort strengthens mental preparedness. This technique primes the mind for action and reduces hesitation when challenges arise. Visualizations creates a sense of familiarity with discomfort, making actual engagement less intimidating and more manageable. Confidence grows as the mind experiences repeated mental success before physical execution. Accountability strengthens the habit of facing discomfort. Sharing goals or progress with supportive individuals adds reinforcement and motivation. Knowing that effort is observed increases commitment and reduces the tendency to retreat in the face of challenge. External accountability, combined with internal drive, reinforces willpower and accelerates the development of confidence through consistent action. Break tasks into manageable segments.
Discomfort often feels overwhelming when viewed as a monolithic challenge. Dividing the task into smaller, achievable steps reduces perceived difficulty and allows incremental victory. Each completed segment builds momentum, reinforces competence, and gradually expands tolerance for discomfort. Confidence emerges from a sequence of small, successful engagements rather than from a single daunting effort. Reframe failure as information. Encountering setbacks during discomfort is inevitable. Rather than interpreting failure as a personal deficiency, view it as feedback on process, strategy, or preparation. Learning from these moments prevents repeated mistakes, strengthens problem-solving ability, and builds the mental resilience required to sustain extreme willpower. Each recovery from failure reinforces confidence and encourages persistence in the face of future challenges. Patience is critical. Growth rarely occurs instantly. Working through discomfort requires time, repeated practice, and persistence. Immediate results are less important than cumulative progress. Confidence develops gradually as the mind observes consistent competence across multiple challenging experiences. Patience fosters resilience and ensures that the lessons of discomfort are fully absorbed. Celebrate small wins strategically. Recognizing successful engagement with discomfort reinforces the value of effort and strengthens motivation. Rewards should be meaningful, but controlled to prevent dependency on external validation. Each acknowledgement of progress solidifies the link between effort and outcome, enhancing self-esteem and reinforcing the willingness to face future challenges. Consistency in facing discomfort is transformative. Sporadic effort produces temporary results, while persistent engagement reshapes mental patterns permanently. Each day that discomfort is confronted strengthens habit, reinforces self-trust, and expands capability. Over time, challenges that once seemed insurmountable become manageable, and confidence grows organically from repeated experience. Maintain focus on purpose. Discomfort is easier to endure when linked to meaningful goals. Connecting effort to a larger mission provides motivation, clarifies priorities, and reduces distraction. Purpose anchors the mind during difficult moments and strengthens commitment. Confidence emerges naturally as progress toward meaningful objectives is consistently demonstrated, even under challenging circumstances. Physical endurance and mental endurance are intertwined. Tasks that demand sustained effort build both stamina and willpower. Pushing through physical strain reinforces mental resilience, teaching the mind that persistence produces tangible results. Each experience of enduring discomfort reinforces self-trust and gradually builds natural confidence that extends beyond specific tasks to broader life challenges. Internal dialogue is critical. Self-criticism or doubt increases resistance to discomfort, while constructive and encouraging self-talk facilitates persistence. Phrases that reinforce capability, intention, and commitment reduce hesitation and support sustained effort. Mental reinforcements strengthens willpower by aligning internal perception with deliberate action. Confidence grows when thoughts support rather than sabotage persistence. Reflection solidifies learning. After engaging with discomfort, reviewing actions, responses, and outcomes consolidates understanding and improves future performance. Reflection provides clarity on what strategies worked, where effort can be improved, and how resilience was demonstrated. Conscious evaluation strengthens the mind's ability to handle future discomfort efficiently and confidently. Adapt and adjust strategies when necessary. Some methods of facing discomfort may prove less effective than anticipated. Being flexible without abandoning effort ensures continuous progress. Adjustments refine approach, maintain motivation, and enhance long-term growth. Each successful adaptation reinforces the idea that persistence is rewarded and competence is within reach. The cumulative effect is profound. Facing discomfort repeatedly transforms perception, builds resilience, strengthens discipline, and reinforces capability. Confidence is no longer reliant on temporary motivation, but emerges as a natural outcome of repeated engagement with challenges. Extreme willpower develops as a combination of persistence, awareness, preparation, and intentional action under conditions that test both mind and body. By committing to working through discomfort consistently, the mind begins to accept that challenges are manageable, effort produces results, and perseverance is rewarded. Each encounter adds evidence of competence, strengthens identity, and solidifies confidence. Over time, the ability to endure difficulty without hesitation becomes instinctive, creating a life where action is guided by intentionality rather than fear or avoidance. Confidence grows organically because it is built on repeated, successful experience with tasks that test limits, and willpower becomes a reliable, unwavering force in daily life.
Chapter 9. Accept resistance without escape, and continue anyway. Resistance is a natural part of any meaningful effort, and learning to face it without running away is essential to developing extreme willpower. Resistance shows up in many forms: internal doubt, fear, fatigue, distraction, or external obstacles, and each of these tests the depth of commitment and the strength of resolve. People who avoid resistance rarely experience true growth because they never confront the very forces that shape resilience. Accepting resistance means acknowledging its presence, understanding it, and choosing action despite its weight. It is not about removing discomfort or uncertainty, but about refusing to let them dictate behavior. When resistance is met with consistent action, confidence builds naturally, focus strengthens, and the mind learns that persistence outweighs hesitation. The first step is recognizing resistance as a normal reaction to effort. Everyone experiences it. It is part of the human condition. When resistance arises, notice the thoughts, sensations, or distractions without judging them. Awareness prevents automatic retreat and creates a pause between perception and reaction. That pause is where willpower is exercised. Choosing to continue despite discomfort rewires the brain to accept challenges as routine rather than threatening. Understanding the source of resistance is crucial. Sometimes it comes from physical exhaustion, sometimes mental fatigue, and sometimes fear of failure or judgment. Identifying the type of resistance allows for targeted strategies. Physical fatigue can be countered with pacing, nutrition, and movement breaks. Mental fatigue benefits from structured focus and deliberate rest. Fear of failure is mitigated by breaking tasks into achievable steps and emphasizing process over outcome. Each strategy strengthens the ability to act despite discomfort, reinforcing the habit of persistence. Commitment to purpose drives action when resistance is high. Clear goals and personal values provide a reason to persist when instinct urges avoidance. Connecting action to meaningful outcomes shifts the focus from temporary discomfort to long-term benefit. Each step taken under resistance strengthens alignment between intention and behavior, creating a feedback loop that reinforces self-trust and determination. Purpose becomes the anchor that prevents retreat from challenges. Discipline is exercised when action continues in spite of resistance. Discipline is not reliance on motivation, which fluctuates, but the ability to do what needs to be done regardless of emotional state. Motivation may fade, but discipline bridges the gap between intention and completion. Acting consistently against resistance trains the mind to obey rational intention rather than impulsive feeling, building a foundation for extreme willpower. Each instance of continued effort strengthens self-confidence and mental endurance. Small actions accumulate into significant momentum. Resistance often feels overwhelming when the focus is on the whole task rather than the immediate next step. Dividing challenges into small, manageable actions reduces psychological burden and makes persistence feasible. Each complete action reinforces the belief that effort produces progress, even under pressure. Momentum grows with each successive step, and resistance gradually loses its power to dictate behavior. Mindset influences the perception of resistance. Viewing obstacles as temporary tests rather than permanent barriers changes the emotional response. Resistance is experienced less as threat and more as a standard element of progress. This reframing reduces fear, limits hesitation, and encourages engagement. The mind learns that discomfort is predictable and manageable, which strengthens confidence and reduces avoidance. Awareness of self-talk is essential. Thoughts like "I can't do this," or "this is too hard," increase resistance and undermine performance. Replacing these thoughts with statements that emphasize capability, perseverance, and focus reduces mental friction. Phrases such as "I will take one step at a time," or "effort now creates strength later," redirect attention from avoidance to action. Thought patterns directly influence behavior, and deliberate control over self-talk reinforces persistence. Preparation minimizes unnecessary resistance. While resistance is unavoidable, preventable obstacles can be addressed in advance. Organizing resources, clarifying steps, and setting priorities reduces distractions and mental friction. Each prepared action increases efficiency and creates early wins that boost confidence. The experience of overcoming well-managed challenges reinforces the mind's ability to persist when unplanned resistance appears. Patience is required. Resistance often creates pressure to rush or avoid difficult tasks. Taking deliberate, steady action builds endurance and reduces anxiety. Gradual exposure to challenges under controlled effort teaches the mind that discomfort is manageable and temporary. Confidence grows as repeated experience confirms that persistence produces progress, and resistance loses its ability to paralyze decision-making. Visualization enhances capacity to face resistance. Imagining successful engagement under challenging circumstances primes the mind for action. Mental rehearsal reduces hesitation, strengthens focus, and builds psychological preparedness. By repeatedly envisioning persistence under resistance, the mind becomes conditioned to approach real challenges with confidence rather than avoidance. Visualization aligns mental expectation with physical action, reinforcing willpower. Reflection strengthens learning from encounters with resistance. After completing a task under difficult conditions, reviewing strategies, effort, and outcomes provides insight. Reflection identifies what approaches worked, which areas require improvement, and how perseverance created results. This conscious evaluation transforms experience into actionable knowledge, enhancing future performance and reinforcing the ability to act under pressure. Accountability encourages continuation despite resistance. Sharing goals or progress with others provides reinforcement and motivation. When commitments are observed, internal excuses and avoidance lose power. External support amplifies persistence and validates effort, creating additional psychological momentum to overcome resistance. Each instance of meeting expectations under observation strengthens self-trust and demonstrates the effectiveness of sustained effort. Breaking tasks into smaller segments mitigates the intensity of resistance. Large challenges often feel paralyzing, leading to avoidance. Each completed segment provides tangible progress, reinforcing capability and momentum. Over time, successive small wins accumulate into substantial achievement, showing the mind that resistance can be managed and overcome without surrendering goals. Reframing failure is essential. Encountering setbacks is part of engaging with resistance. Viewing mistakes as feedback rather than personal deficiency allows for adjustment and continued action. Learning from each setback strengthens problem-solving capacity and reduces fear in future effort. Persistence becomes habitual when failure is treated as information, not a reason to retreat. Confidence builds naturally from repeated evidence of learning and adaptation. Consistency strengthens resilience. Acting against resistance only sporadically limits growth.
while consistent effort builds mental patterns of persistence. The mind internalizes repeated behavior, making future resistance less intimidating and easier to navigate. Each day of deliberate action strengthens endurance, self-trust, and the capacity to maintain focus under challenging conditions. Physical and mental endurance are intertwined. The body often signals discomfort that tests the mind, and the mind often generates hesitation that affects physical performance. Consciously acting despite these signals develops both physical resilience and mental fortitude. Each instance of overcoming combined resistance strengthens overall capacity and reinforces confidence in the ability to persist. Discomfort is informative. Resistance indicates areas where improvement, preparation, or adaptation is necessary. Paying attention to the signals of discomfort allows for strategic adjustment rather than impulsive retreat. Resistance becomes a guide rather than a barrier, teaching where effort is most needed and where strategy must adapt. Learning from discomfort builds competence and reinforces the ability to act despite challenges. Focus is sharpened through resistance. Distractions, competing priorities, and internal doubts all compete for attention. Acting despite these pressures strengthens concentration and the ability to prioritize action. Focused effort becomes habitual as the mind repeatedly experiences success under conditions of interference, and confidence grows naturally from evidence of capability. Self-discipline is reinforced. Resistance cannot be removed, but discipline allows action regardless of circumstance. Repeated choice to continue despite internal or external opposition trains the mind to obey intention rather than fleeting feeling. Self-discipline becomes a dependable force that underlies all decisions, transforming challenges from obstacles into routine elements of achievement. Reward and recognition reinforce behavior. Each time resistance is confronted and overcome, acknowledging effort reinforces neural pathways associated with persistence. Strategic reinforcement motivates continued engagement, strengthens self-esteem, and enhances commitment. Rewards should be aligned with long-term goals rather than immediate gratification to maintain focus on growth rather than indulgence. Adapt strategies when needed. Resistance is rarely uniform. Some challenges require modification of approach while maintaining commitment to action. Flexibility enhances effectiveness without compromising integrity. Each successful adaptation reinforces confidence in the ability to persist despite changing circumstances. Long-term perspective strengthens resolve. Resistance often tempts immediate retreat in favor of comfort or convenience. Keeping the bigger picture in mind reinforces purpose and motivation. Each act of persistence builds cumulative progress, demonstrating that resistance is temporary and overcome through consistent effort. Identity is shaped by repeated action. Persisting through resistance reinforces self-perception as someone capable, reliable, and resilient. This internalized identity reduces future hesitation and strengthens the foundation for extreme willpower. The more often resistance is faced and action continues, the more natural confidence becomes. Reflection consolidates lessons. Reviewing experiences with resistance ensures learning is internalized and informs future effort. Identifying successes, adaptations, and strategies increases efficiency and effectiveness. The mind strengthens associations between persistence and positive outcome, reinforcing the habit of acting despite opposition. The cumulative effect is transformative. Accepting resistance without escape trains the mind to respond intentionally, strengthens confidence, builds self-discipline, and enhances resilience. Extreme willpower emerges naturally when challenges are faced consistently, fear is managed, and persistence becomes a habitual response. The mind learns that action produces results. Discomfort is temporary, and success belongs to those who continue despite resistance.
Chapter 10. Repeat disciplined actions daily until they feel normal. Building extreme willpower requires more than sporadic effort. It demands repetition until disciplined actions become automatic and integrated into daily life. Consistency is the foundation of mental strength, and the more often you perform an action intentionally, the less it relies on motivation or fleeting emotions. Habits are the mechanism through which willpower becomes effortless, and disciplined repetition creates a feedback loop that strengthens confidence, self-trust, and mental resilience. Each time an action is completed intentionally, the brain reinforces pathways associated with focus, endurance, and determination, gradually transforming effort into routine. The ultimate goal is to reach a point where doing the right thing daily feels natural, even in the face of resistance, fatigue, or distraction. Begin by identifying the core actions that align with your long-term goals. These are behaviors that produce tangible results, build character, or enhance capability. Once these actions are identified, commit to performing them consistently without relying on emotion or desire. The first days will feel deliberate and sometimes uncomfortable, but the repetition itself is the training that converts intention into habit. Discipline thrives not on feeling motivated, but on taking action despite feelings. Repetition trains the mind and body simultaneously. Each completed action reinforces not only mental patterns of persistence, but also physical routines that support effort. When action is repeated, the brain starts to expect execution, reducing hesitation and increasing efficiency. Over time, what initially required significant mental effort becomes a default response. This automaticity is the hallmark of extreme willpower, the ability to act consistently without debate or resistance. Attention to small details matters. Performing disciplined actions consistently requires precision and intentionality. Sloppy execution diminishes the value of repetition and slows the development of automaticity. Each repetition should be performed with awareness, focus, and commitment. When attention accompanies action, habits are reinforced more quickly, and the mind learns to value consistency alongside correctness. Tracking progress reinforces commitment. Keeping a visible record of completed actions strengthens accountability and provides motivation. Each marked day serves as tangible proof that persistence is possible. Observing patterns of consistency encourages continuation and signals that the effort is yielding real, measurable change. This tracking also helps identify moments of avoidance or inconsistency, so adjustments can be made before habits weaken. Resisting shortcuts is essential. The temptation to skip, delay, or reduce effort undermines the formation of habitual discipline. Extreme willpower grows when actions are performed fully and consistently, not partially or sporadically. Choosing the harder, disciplined path even once strengthens the neural connections that make future actions easier. Each deliberate refusal of shortcuts reinforces the habit of persistence and builds self-trust. Start small to ensure sustainability. Large, dramatic efforts are difficult to maintain consistently, and burnout often follows. Incremental, manageable actions repeated daily provide steady growth. Each small victory reinforces the habit and gradually expands capacity. Over time, the accumulation of these actions produces significant transformation, demonstrating that extreme willpower is built through repetition rather than intensity. Emotional regulation supports habit formation. Daily disciplined action is often challenged by mood fluctuations, fatigue, or frustration. Recognizing emotional responses without allowing them to dictate behavior ensures continuity. Acting consistently, regardless of temporary feelings, strengthens the mind's ability to persist and teaches the nervous system that effort is non-negotiable. Confidence grows as the mind experiences reliability in self-expectation. Preparation enhances consistency. Organizing the environment, planning tasks, and removing unnecessary friction allows daily actions to be executed with minimal resistance. Each prepared day reduces excuses, increases focus, and reinforces the habit loop. When actions are consistently performed with minimal disruption, the mind learns that persistence is reliable and achievable. Patience is necessary. Habits do not form instantly, and the first weeks may feel cumbersome. Persistence through this initial resistance is critical because repeated action over time rewires the brain. Each day that disciplined action occurs, even without immediate reward, strengthens mental endurance. Confidence develops gradually, rooted in evidence of consistent effort rather than temporary outcomes. Focus on process rather than outcome. Daily repetition should emphasize correct execution, timing, and effort, rather than immediate results. The habit is formed through action, not reward. Consistency builds the framework for success, and the benefits emerge naturally from repeated, deliberate practice. This approach reinforces the mindset that effort is non-negotiable, and results are a byproduct of sustained action. Self-reflection reinforces learning. Regularly reviewing which actions were completed successfully, where deviations occurred, and what adjustments are needed ensures that repetition is purposeful. Reflection prevents mindless repetition and strengthens the intentionality behind each action. Over time, reflection combined with consistent execution accelerates the development of habits that feel natural and automatic. Accountability amplifies persistence. Sharing intentions, progress, or results with a reliable observer encourages adherence. Social accountability increases commitment and reduces the tendency to skip or delay disciplined actions. Knowing that effort is being observed enhances focus and fosters reliability. Each act of consistency under accountability reinforces self-discipline and strengthens mental resilience. Reward strategic effort wisely. Recognizing effort after completing disciplined actions reinforces behavior, but should not create dependency on external validation. The reward should reinforce the habit itself, celebrating the act of persistence rather than temporary gratification. Over time, intrinsic satisfaction from completing daily actions becomes the primary driver, making repetition self-sustaining. Flexibility within structure is important. While repetition is critical, life introduces variability. Adjusting timing, method, or context without abandoning the core action allows habit formation to continue despite external changes. Flexibility ensures sustainability and resilience of the habit, demonstrating that disciplined action can withstand disruption. Each adaptive decision strengthens confidence and mental resourcefulness. Awareness of internal dialogue supports daily execution. Thoughts of resistance, excuses, or self-doubt are inevitable. Observing these thoughts without acting on them allows deliberate choice to continue. Over time, repeated defiance of internal resistance trains the mind to accept consistent action as the default. Mental discipline strengthens naturally, and confidence emerges from habitual adherence. Integration into routine solidifies habit. Daily actions are most effective when embedded into existing patterns of life. Linking disciplined behavior to established routines reduces friction and makes repetition seamless. When actions occur automatically in response to context cues, willpower is preserved for additional challenges. Habitual execution becomes effortless, and extreme willpower becomes a standard feature of behavior rather than a constant struggle. Incremental progression enhances effectiveness. Repetition does not imply stagnation. Gradually increasing difficulty, complexity, or duration ensures continued growth and prevents plateau.
Each progressive step strengthens capability, reinforces mental endurance, and expands the mind's comfort with sustained effort. Confidence develops as the mind experiences consistent growth through disciplined action. Mindfulness amplifies impact. Performing daily actions with attention to execution, effort, and intention strengthens neural pathways associated with habit formation. Mindless repetition produces limited effect, whereas conscious engagement ensures that each action contributes meaningfully to mental resilience, competence, and confidence. Repetition with awareness creates mastery over behavior and thought. Resilience is reinforced through repeated effort. Daily discipline teaches the mind that persistence is non-negotiable, even under fatigue, distraction, or discomfort. Each act of continued effort, despite minor setbacks, strengthens endurance and builds a reliable framework for sustained willpower. Confidence emerges as repeated evidence accumulates that effort is achievable, and consistent action produces predictable results. Long-term identity shifts occur through repetition. Performing disciplined actions daily shapes self-perception as a reliable, capable, and resilient individual. This internalized identity reduces future hesitation, strengthens decision-making, and increases the likelihood that new challenges will be met with immediate action. Identity and behavior align, creating a powerful reinforcement loop that supports extreme willpower naturally. Cumulative effect produces transformation. Each repeated action adds evidence of competence, strengthens neural pathways, and builds mental resilience. Over weeks and months, daily discipline becomes automatic. Confidence grows without dependency on emotion, and the ability to persist through resistance or discomfort becomes instinctive. Extreme willpower is no longer a conscious effort. It becomes an integral part of character and behavior. Reflection and adjustment maintain growth. Regularly evaluating habits ensures that repetition remains purposeful and aligned with goals. Adjusting actions, timing, or context prevents stagnation and maximizes the efficiency of daily effort. Each conscious adaptation reinforces the mind's capacity to maintain disciplined action under varied circumstances. The power of daily repetition is in consistency and intentionality. Every completed action reinforces commitment, strengthens self-trust, and gradually transforms effort into routine. Extreme willpower is cultivated not in rare bursts of effort, but in the persistent, deliberate repetition of disciplined actions until they become an automatic, non-negotiable part of life. Confidence, resilience, and mental endurance are natural results, emerging from consistent engagement rather than temporary motivation. Over time, this disciplined repetition changes perception. Tasks that once felt difficult become manageable. Discomfort becomes familiar rather than threatened. Resistance loses its intensity, and mental energy is focused on action rather than avoidance. The brain learns that persistence produces results, and habit ensures continuity. Daily effort transforms the mind, builds character, and solidifies extreme willpower.